Today, super excited to be joined by Rafa, VP of Digital Innovation at SecuTix. SecuTix has joined the Hashgraph Association membership program and is directly integrating Hedera to bring on-chain ticketing, proof of authenticity, and lifecycle control into production, including an upcoming rollout with a huge European music festival this summer. Super excited to also be joined by Kamal Yousefi, president of the Hashgraph Association. Rafa, Kamal, great to both have you here. Let's kick off. So SecuTix is already operating, and I'm sure we're going to hear about this with the intro here, at a global scale with major clients. So I guess the question I have, and I'm sure that the Hedera community would be interested in, is what led you to join the Hashgraph Association membership program, and what were you looking to unlock with that partnership? And welcome, Rafa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ryan, and thanks. Good to see you, Kamal. So I think in general, we were looking for a partner in the DLT space who was open to a conversation and who was actually wanting to and willing to move into and work in the space of ticketing. Ticketing is not that, it's a very traditional old school industry, right? And there's been, I would say, a lot of white papers in the last 10 years that have tried to tackle how to move it into the decentralized space. And we, with our experience, we've been in the industry for like 20 years. In our experience, we had a very, we have a very specific understanding of this, having ourselves dealt with decentralized technology, delved in that many years ago, done many millions of tickets using it. We have learned a lot, and we have a very specific view. And I think when we met Kamal, and Kamal, you were talking about what the vision that you had, right? I think it just came together. It just kind of clicked.
Basically, in our previous conversations, so we started engaging with SecuTix on various topics, which includes providing infrastructure solutions for Hedera community and for the Hashgraph Association, or in particular for the Hashgraph Association members, be it individuals or corporates. And as part of that, let's say, exploratory journey in terms of what are the use cases, what are the solutions and applications that we can leverage within not only Hedera ecosystem, but also within the wider Web3 space, we got amazed and positively surprised about the maturity and robustness and, let's say, the innovative solutions that SecuTix are providing already in that, let's say, in the Web2 space. And then we started with intensive review sessions, workshops to identify or to pick up the use cases that have proven themselves within Web2 stage, and kind of hand in hand with our colleagues and counterparts at SecuTix, we started implementing on the top of their existing ticketing system specific use cases that includes digital identity and, for example, loyalty programs and fan engagement. So that's basically part of the journey that we had with SecuTix.
Yeah, I remember some of those initial conversations. They were interesting because we tend to be behind the scenes. SecuTix is white label, and there's a lot of the largest events in the world use us, and most people don't know, and it's not kind of public in that sense. And so it's interesting because then you're having conversations. I think it happened in this case, Kamal. I think you or some of your colleagues or some of your, some of the people in the space, in the ecosystem, had been to one of the major events, and I think I remember hearing like, "Oh, we want to work with a system like that one that we were at." And I was like, well, it's great because that's actually our system, right? We ran that major event.
Yes, true.
Yeah,
indeed. So maybe in that particular aspect, so the Hashgraph Association or the Hashgraph Association membership program, maybe just a little bit of context and background for Hedera community and the Hashgraph Association members. The Hashgraph Association membership program is a highly effective enablement program that starts with a set of professional trainings and certification programs, all the way up to use case development across several industries, which is mainly focusing on developing the necessary infrastructure solutions, organizational competencies, and engagement strategies for our association members, mainly for the corporate members. And if you look at it from a macro perspective, it's basically we have, I would say, two main pillars that we try to achieve, we aim to achieve by launching the Hashgraph Association membership program, which can be summarized as follows. Number one is education in the context of equipping the Hashgraph Association members with the technical and the functional knowledge and know-how to design, develop, and deploy enterprise-grade applications with commercial viability, or in some cases, help them upgrade or build the Web3 components on their existing Web2 solutions. That's, for example, one of the key pillars. And the second pillar is to foster business growth and promote collaboration across or within Hedera community and within Hedera ecosystem by enhancing business dynamics for Hedera community and connecting tech providers with infrastructure providers, with investors, with entrepreneurs, innovators, startups, but also individuals that might have great use cases that can bring value for Hedera as a project, but also for Hedera community, be it Hedera community as members as individuals or Hedera community members as corporates. And that's basically the aim, or let's say the strategic goal of the Hashgraph Association membership, basically establishing a platform where individual can get in touch with corporates, with startups, with investors, with governmental entities, and form some sort of a working group within the Hashgraph Association where the benefit from, I call that the association membership benefits, which includes trainings, includes certification programs, includes access to executive roundtables and workshops, and also invitations to exclusive events where you have the chance to engage directly with key leaders out of the Web3 industry and share ideas. How can we work hand in hand to bring viable solutions to Hedera community?
And I think for me, I just want to add that, I mean, we have developed this vision of how you need to have to operate major events. You need to have a hybrid system, right? An organizer is by default a centralized issuer that gives, validity to an event. What would a tournament be without the actual tournament organizers? And so you need to connect both worlds. And so it was it was great to find out that Hedera has already developed the HTS, and so HTS is really able to, you can connect and work with the whole DLT structure, but in an API way, which is more natural for the left-hand side, the databases and the centralized systems that we still have to run, right, to be able to engage easier with the DLT on the right side.
I'm curious, Rafa, from your standpoint, and thanks, Kamal, for the breakdown of the membership program. And my kind of takeaway, and for those of us, I mean, eliminating redundancy is a huge deal as far as like if we're actually trying to bridge the gap and bring real world entities that are dealing with global clients on chain, we have to be able to get into those discussions and have actual solution oriented kind of things that come across during those discussions. So I think eliminating redundancy and strength in numbers, I think is massive. Rafa, from your standpoint, you deal with so many global entities, similar to kind of like finance, like fiat is kind of already digital. I watched a speech that you did, and this was on the your Digital Pulse podcast. You made the distinction that most digital tickets today are obviously already digital, but they're kind of digital versions of paper. So I guess I'm curious from your standpoint, what actually defines, like in your mind, where we're headed towards a truly digital native ticket, and what does that look like after that shift kind of occurs? Because I'm sure it is coming.
Yeah, sure. That we call them digital representations, right? So when you mentioned the industry is currently built on digital representations. So like in the late 90s, when you used to have to, I don't know how long of a fan you've been. I see the guitars. I have my guitars in the back too. So I've been a fan of music all my life. And I remember going to concerts when I was 10 years old and having to wait, 12 hours or sometimes even sleep with a tent outside the stadium for when the box office would open, because it's the only way to get tickets, right? And so then in the late 90s, tickets started going the sales online, and now it wasn't. So now they would mail you the paper tickets back then, but then at some point they started. Yeah, I remember that. Now, I still got a bunch of them here. Like I've been around. Like I have this collection of all these paper tickets from 40 years ago, so then they started emailing you, right? And they would email you a PDF. So the PDF was, and you had the option: do you want the paper one or do you want the email version now, right? And it turns out that the email version, well, it's a QR code, but it's a digital representation of the original ticket, which is still paper, right? Sure. And so then you end up in a world where it's much easier to attack, to defraud people, because there isn't one single source of truth anymore. There's all these official copies, and then who's to stop me from printing a PDF ticket 20 times and selling 19 of them? And then I'll run to the stadium and enter first, and then the other 19 people, they won't be able to enter, right? And so this is the kind of stuff that started to happen over the last 20, 30 something years, as tickets were digitized, not digital native. They were digital representations. And so what we started doing in SecuTix like almost 10 years ago is we started pushing a digital native wallet with a digital native ticket. Now, having said this, these are database digital native tickets. So we're talking about unique identifiers, so UUIDs on databases, right? And so then the ticket has one UUID identifier, and it can move from your wallet, Solomon, to my wallet, to Kamal's wallet. And then there's a traceability, and it is unique. And you can't print it. It doesn't have a physical twin or a physical representation. It's digital only. Only in the event that you are at the venue, and for some reason your phone is broken, your battery's dead, something, then you go to customer support, and then they'll identify you, and then they will do two things. The moment they print the only at the venue physical version of your ticket, it also removes and the digital version disappears from your wallet. So you can never have both coexisting, right? Right. And then you would think that a large number of people would maybe say, I don't want to have a digital ticket on the digital wallet. I don't want to use a phone. And some of our major clients were concerned with this, right? And so they were saying, we need to always have the ability to print if you want. And we offer it, of course. But then in one of the major events we did, so for example, we do UEFA, right? And UEFA has this major European, the Euro tournament, right? That they do every 4 years. So they had it 2 years ago in Germany. And that was one of the first complete events where the policy had already changed in our client, where all tickets, 100% of the whole tournament was all digital native on our wallet. And they thought maybe a large percentage of people would ask for that physical printout, which again, if you ask for it only at the stadium, right? Sometime before the gates, right? If you ask for it, then your digital version is dead. It disappears, right? It has to be unique. And it turns out that something after the whole festival, just like 0.02% of the tickets had to be printed. And it was really because people dropped their phones in the toilet, or their battery was dead. It was really only that.
Sure. So I hear a lot about, it sounds to me a lot. I mean, I'm looking at the stats from your guys' site too, which is, I mean, some of the numbers are obviously massive because ticketing is huge. 75 million tickets processed yearly, 204 live customer sites, obviously quite a bit of revenue. But what I hear from you, where DLT and blockchain is kind of attractive at the onset is like trust and authenticity in a digitally native world. And then, so I guess the question I have is like, after you establish, this is maybe just, you have this kind of authenticity, you have this life cycle control. Where does kind of like using blockchain or DLT sit in the architecture? I guess the question is at the onset. After that, a trust and authenticity is established, what are you kind of excited about for other things that could be possible to maybe leverage the technology for, like after you've kind of established like the base layer of maybe where you have the value add?
So this is where, and this is why we started these discussions with Hedera, right? And so we were looking to build the next step down the value chain, or actually that last mile part of the digital native ticket that we have on a relational database, centralized system, right? Because even though we provide all of the security all the way until the end, right? There's still situations, unfortunately. We have about 200 clients, but we tend to have the largest and most complex and most renowned events in the world, right? The type of event where if you're going to go to that event, if you're going to go to Formula One, you go to Formula One website to get the tickets because you know about that, right? It's not the kind of stuff like, honey, what are we doing tonight? Oh, there's a comedian playing at whatever, right? So these large events, right, have their own brand, have their own everything. And so they use our system to go direct to consumer, right? And so we protect the whole life cycle of the ticket from the moment somebody is in the queue to try and get, because the demand is like 30, 40 times higher than the number of tickets available. So there's a huge queue and then the online sales open, the purchase, then the ticket is received in the wallet, then you manage it. So we protect all of that. But there's a part that we can't do anything about, which is there's a lot of passion in the fans and the attendees of our clients, right? People live and breathe, the brands of our clients, right? For example, we have Red Bull Leipzig in Leipzig in Germany, right? And so there's diehard fans of that team, for example, right? And so if they are desperate because there's a Champions League match and they couldn't get tickets to it, and they're standing outside the stadium, right? Well, all the tickets are digital native and it's great, and I have my ticket. But if you're desperate, someone can literally just create a quick, especially now with AI, a web app that looks exactly like the ticket, right? It used to take, maybe 4 years ago when we did a major tournament in the Middle East, right? It took maybe a week to build a web app that looks exactly like the tickets, right? Now with AI, with Stitch, these kinds of stuff, you could probably build it in a few hours, or right? Sure. And then somebody who's unscrupulous in nature can take advantage of the FOMO of these passionate fans and show them something on their phone that says, I have a ticket. And there's always a story. And if you've been a fan all my life, you're used to this. As you're approaching the venue, somebody says, I need tickets. And then they go, oh, I have tickets. And then it'll be like, oh yeah, like my wife just went into labor and I can't go, but I'm a big fan. I want a fan. You know what? Just give me $100, but it's worth 500. Don't worry, just give me $100 and I have to go. And so this type of ripoff, right? There's nothing that we could do currently. It used to be the case that if I had physical tickets, right, when I pass it to you, if the paper's very flimsy, if sometimes if the what do you call it, the bar with the holographic thing doesn't shine as much, you might be like, maybe if you touch it, the ink rubs off, right? And then you're like, this is shady, I'm not going to give you money, right? But if I just show you something on a phone, it looks exactly like the real one. Picture perfect. Every single pixel could be the same. And, we all have received those phishing emails where websites look exactly the same. So there's no way for that end user outside the venue to verify the authenticity of what someone is showing them on the phone. Sure. There's no way, right? And they don't have the centralized access control system that the stadium has. They can't go like, wait, let's go together to the gate, let's scan it, see if it works, and then I'll pay you.
Tens of thousands of people, yeah.
Yeah. And so they need a way in a peer-to-peer, face-to-face, to just verify what you're showing me and saying that is real. So here's $100 and thank you. Right.
Yeah. I think it's interesting too. I mean, and I think you mentioned something that's really important, and I think it's maybe where we're heading, where you have these just super passionate fans, and there's probably an opportunity from a brand standpoint. I would imagine even from a ticketing standpoint of, maybe like the event even kind of beginning before the event begins. Like you imagine like almost gamifying like participation to be able to like attend a huge event and figuring out ways to leverage blockchain and distributed ledger and that way too, which I think is exciting. I guess the last question I kind of really have is I think that integrating any new technology, especially at a scale that you guys deal in the traditional world with the huge entities you guys deal with, you have to make sure obviously it's done correctly, and there's not like levels of disruption. So I guess the question that I have is like, from your guys' standpoint, Rafa, like when you introduce this kind of new infrastructure, how do you kind of like, what do you do to introduce it in a way that maybe doesn't disrupt what's already there and just kind of bolts on as like a value add more so?
Yeah. And I'm going to answer this, but if we have time, I'd love to come back to the point you made about
Sure.
before the event, because we got there's a very interesting thing. So the ticketing world is something that most people never think about. It's kind of under the hood. It's only when you need to get a ticket that you worry about it. It's in many cases it feels like a necessary evil, right? And so it's under the hood, most people, but it's super complex. There's a lot of things under there. And so one thing that most people don't realize is that because of the demand of the passion of the fans, right? And then you have this event, which is, if you think about it, a ticket is really a non-fungible, unique asset, right? It's a once in a lifetime thing, right? So most people think of tickets like airline tickets, but an airline ticket is fungible, right? If you're in Munich and you got to go to Paris, you don't care if you take the 3 o'clock or the 5 o'clock, or you take one airline or another airline. You could even take the train. You could even drive. You can take a bus, right? It doesn't matter, right? But if you want to see Messi raise the World Cup, for example, right? That only happened once in history and it'll never be available again. And there were only, whatever, I assume the stadium had 80,000 seats, right? And so then you have 1 million people who want to go. It gets crazy, right? It gets crazy. And so these systems, the systems that operate these venues at this scale, they need to be such that there's not room for single failure, because one second of additional lag in the access control of 80,000 people entering a stadium over 30 minutes, 1 second of additional lag will create a bottleneck. And if you have crazy fans, they might push and somebody might be trampled.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's huge. Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah, and a lot of these fans have been having fun because they're celebrating all weekend, because they're traveling, they're celebrating their team made it to the final, and they've been having lots of fun, and they're not necessarily in all 5 senses by the time they get to the stadium, right? And if they can't get in, they think the match is going to start, they just start pushing, right? And so these are very critical things. And so you know how like medical systems tend to be very critical. You can't change anything because lives depend on it. Well, lives depend, on these systems too, in a different way. And so when we have to add anything, you have to first figure out, is what we're adding part of the critical roadmap that gets the fan inside the venue safely? If it is not, then you have to treat it completely separate. It has to be in a separate backend where there is no real connection between them, so that there's no physical way that this new feature, which might be for something else, which is good. It gives maybe better engagement. It gives better safety at the margins. We talked about the very specific case where proof of authenticity, which is what we're building with Hedera, and we're gonna launch it this summer in one of our bigger, most important festivals clients that we have, right? Maybe this type of check of proof of authenticity will happen if there's 250,000 people in the festival. It might only happen 100 times, right? Or 500 times, right? But those are it's a very small number of times, but they're very high. There are these moments where you need a high level of trust, right? You need a high level of verification and right? And so they have to be completely separate system. They have to be asynchronous. You can't have the operation system of the ticketing event operations depend on any of this other systems, right? So yeah, that's and so you have to connect them both. Yeah,
I think it's interesting. I hear very similar things from, as a quick sidebar through like the payments landscape, that it's almost like there's these parallel rails. I mean, we know like distributed ledger and blockchain and banking and financial services, and those are critical, mission critical global systems. But you can see there's kind of this parallel distributed ledger end of things. And obviously as more and more comes online and there's more and more trust, I guess, and like, which I think there kind of already is the trust for them to be doing the parallel stuff. But from a safety standpoint, I think we'll over time start to see stuff kind of slowly cross over. But I would love if you could maybe expand a little bit on maybe the brand engagement aspect and where you see the opportunity there, because I know I tackled that before the question and would love your thoughts on
it. So you mentioned how you said there's an opportunity to do something before the event. So actually the way it works is we call it the true fan, right? There's this notion of a true fan. It's almost, in many cases, fans are even more passionate than religion, right? I mean, it's like it becomes their religion, right? So these true fans, they don't see a single event as I got tickets, I'm going. It's a cycle, right? So right now, I want to go to the match 2 weeks from now, but I'm already thinking about, and when I come out of that match, I'm already thinking about the fact that if they make it to the playoffs, I'm going to be there. And if they make it to the Champions League, I'm going to be there. And next year's, I'm already thinking about next year's season card. Like so it's the circle, right? So the moment you leave a match, a fan is already thinking about how they're going to get the ticket for the next one. So it's a cycle.
I'm in,
right?
I'm in Pittsburgh. So there
are you a Steelers fan?
Yeah. There's people, if the Steelers lose, their entire week is like, they're ruined for an entire week.
Yeah. So I'm from Tijuana. I grew up in Baja California. So the Chargers were right across the border. So they're my team. I was
in San Diego for years. Yeah. So
yeah. And so I remember, the terrible towels, and we went in there to Pittsburgh in the AFC Championship. We beat. So I'm super passionate. I mean, actually, one of my first tickets that I have in my collection is from the playoff in the 1994 at Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego, where I went to see them beat the Dolphins, and they made it to the Super Bowl that year. But yeah, so you see, a fan is always thinking about this, and so the way we do it is that there's an opportunity for engagement in between events, right? So after you come out of the last event, well, what do you want? You want your souvenir ticket, right? This is my souvenir. I went to see Pearl Jam. This is my souvenir, right? You want your souvenir ticket, right? Because that's part of it. It's part of, now, the problem with having moved to digital, that the only thing, everything is better in a digital native ticketing world. Everything's better. The fan experience, everything, the security, everything's better. The only thing that you lost was that thing that you take home with you, which was that ticket. And so one of the things we've done already is that we've introduced the digital native souvenir ticket, right? And a difference between a ticket and a souvenir ticket is that when I got this ticket before the event, this is actually called a revocable license. So, the organizer of this event could have just revoked the right for me to enter the venue, because they are responsible for 20,000 people at this arena, And if they find that I am at risk for that, they just say the terms and condition, if you read them all, right? They'll just say, we're not going to let you in. And if I didn't violate the terms and conditions, all they have to do is pay me back the face value and that you can't come in. So it's a revocable license. But the moment I went to the stadium and the event is over, this becomes an asset that I own forever. It's not a revocable license anymore. I can keep it. And if I had managed to get backstage and had Eddie Vedder sign this, right? And then for some tragic reason, this ended up being the last concert that Pearl Jam ever gave, I might be able to sell this now asset, which is a souvenir ticket now, and it is now my asset that I own. It's no longer a revocable license controlled by the organizer. I might be able to sell it for $500,000 or whatever, right?
Sure.
And so that distinction of a ticket before the event being a revocable license, after the event being a souvenir ticket, being a proof of being an asset that you own as a souvenir ticket, being something like proof of authenticity, means that our wallet, which is in your phone, needs to have both minds, like left side, right side of your brain, needs to have both infrastructures. And for the fan, it needs to be seamless, right? You know, when you and I, we're thinking logic, math, I forget what it's left side, right side of the brain. And then when we're playing music, we use the other one. You're not thinking I'm going to use this one and that one. It's just whatever, right? So if you're a fan, you got your ticket, you're going to tomorrow's match. That ticket is a revocable license on a database, which is centralized, controlled by the organizer. I will go to the match and it becomes a souvenir ticket, and then I can trade it and show it to my friends. That's now on it's now on a system that allows me, if I want to withdraw it in a self-custody wallet,
Sure.
etc. Right? And so
I think
that's very important. And then you can do all the engagement after yesterday's match to prove that I'm a big fan because I have all these proof of authenticity, proof of attendance, right? I have all these souvenir tickets, which means that in the next big online sale next week, I get, maybe you give me an advantage because I'm a real fan and I'm not a bot because I have all these assets.
Right. I want to move over to you here with the next question, Kamal, but my head always starts spinning when I hear, people talk. Cause I think it's so interesting. So I'm going to make maybe a different association here and maybe bring it back to ticketing. I think we always see a resurgence, and I'm not old, but I'm getting older. And I know a lot of people buy vinyl again. So I buy vinyl. My kids are into vinyl, and I'm like, I bet you maybe there's something okay, we're digital first with tickets, but imagine a scenario, and this is totally just imagination, time. But imagine a scenario where you have this digital ticket, you're a super big fan, and then after the fact, it's maybe there's a way for me to go and claim a physical ticket through whoever that gets mailed to me, and then I still get. It's there's all sorts of things in my head kind of goes in crazy directions because I think people's nostalgia kind of goes off a little bit. But no, it's super exciting, and I think that there's ways to make the experience last. And where I'm kind of excited, Rafa, is I'm excited to watch how you guys create new feedback loops, create new experiences, create new brand experience as well. But Kamal, I would love if you could maybe walk us through for other enterprise institutions, and obviously for SecuTix, these guys are global with some of the biggest entities on the planet. What should other enterprises and institutions take away from SecuTix's path into the Hedera ecosystem through the Hashgraph Association membership?
I mean, SecuTix experience and journey within the Hedera ecosystem is inspiring and impressive. It started with an event that we attended, and we're kind of got amazed about the high efficiency in terms of managing the tickets and the processes. Following a few meetings and workshops, started onboarding SecuTix to be an active member within the Hashgraph Association. In my view, they succeeded in many terms. Number one, by showing commitment and dedicating resources within SecuTix that are being trained and certified on Hedera, and proactively bringing use cases that can be built on the top of their ticketing systems, as I mentioned earlier on, such as digital identity, the fan engagement, and loyalty programs, all the way up to other security measures that are built, let's say, into their core systems. In general, I highly recommend Web3 startups, enterprises, academic institutions, and SMEs, basically small and mid-sized enterprises, that are willing to tap into the expertise and experience and share industry use cases among each other to join the Hashgraph Association membership and benefit from the membership package that comes along with the Hashgraph Association membership, which includes free education and certification around Hedera Hashgraph and its core functions and functionalities, all the way up to the different products and use cases that we have built and rolled out either with the Hashgraph Association directly or with external partners such as SecuTix and some of their end clients. Tap into a pool of over 100,000 trained and certified individuals across the world, participate in boot camps, executive workshops, business roundtables, and tap into a global business network across different industries in different regions. And last but not least, benefit from the possibility of forming, I would call it an industry working group within the Hashgraph Association, to have deeper conversations and engage with counterparts within the industry to drive the development of different use cases while leveraging Hedera Hashgraph capabilities. So the idea, if you look at it, as I mentioned earlier on, or the approach that we are taking here, is to combine left brain technology scales with right brain innovative thinking, basically merging the business acumen of our association members, like the case with SecuTix and other ones that we have interviewed or we are going to be interviewing in the upcoming episodes, where we bring industry-specific knowledge of our association members, and we combine that with the technology expertise of our engineers to accelerate the transition from innovative business ideas to successfully deployed Hedera-enabled solutions. So, in a summary, please don't miss the opportunity and join the Hashgraph Association and become an active member of the association by engaging with other association members, and bring your use cases and your ideas, and we will help you certainly to build it and deploy it live on Hedera mainnet.
I want to ask real quick, Kamal. There are different levels of membership. I know from the community standpoint, there's an access point, and from my understanding, it's pretty low hanging fruit. It's like, hey, if you're in Hedera, the ecosystem, and you want to support the ecosystem, you can literally, go and basically just learn, and you can, So maybe walk us through like the difference there.
Absolutely. I will certainly give a deeper session about the Hashgraph Association membership, but maybe in a summary, there are two tracks. There is the individual track and there is the corporate track. The corporate track has different levels. So you start as you are classified as an ecosystem member, and there you get different classifications. If you are Fortune 2000, for example, then you have the possibility to be an association member, given the fact that you dedicate resources that will be trained and certified on Hedera. Number two, you bring a use case like SecuTix did that will be implemented and deployed live in some of your core existing systems. And last but not least is you contribute towards promoting these use cases within your industry. If you take all these three boxes, basically you become an association member, basically a member or an entity within the Hashgraph Association that has voting right. Down the list, we have, for example, enterprises, basically big enterprises that are not classified as Fortune 2000, but they are significantly contributing towards the broad adoption of Hedera network and Hedera platform. Then we have SMEs, basically small and mid-sized enterprises. We have Web3 titans, basically top Web3 companies, which includes custody providers, infrastructure providers, exchanges, crypto banks, crypto venture capital funds, crypto asset managers that have sophisticated knowledge around digital assets and crypto assets, and they are interested in interacting with other businesses or let's say other accounts that are leveraging Hedera platform. all the way down to, let's say, small startups that are starting their journey with Web3 or within Web3 industry. On the other side, or in the individual part, we have different categories, which starts with an association member as an individual. Basically, it doesn't cost you anything. You just register, you get onboarded based on a light KYC. So basically, you have to share your name, your email address, and perhaps your phone number for us just to identify who you are and what are your contributions. You have the chance to participate and benefit from the online trainings that we're offering. You have the chance to benefit from the Hashgraph, basically a global help desk to help you resolve any technical issues that you might face while building on Hedera Hashgraph. The second level is the active members. These are basically individuals that have registered successfully and completed their foundational training around Hedera. So you get a training and then you get a certification exam. If you pass the exam, you get the status of an active member. And an active member has different paths, but to keep that status, for example, you will be requested to train 10 other members, help them to go through the journey, train them, certify them. And then you need to contribute, let's say, light white papers or case studies or use cases that needs to be considered either for the working groups within the Hashgraph Association or for the wider Hedera community. The next level would be done after the active member is, we call them regional champs. These are basically individuals that have proven track record in terms of building on Hedera, understanding Hedera Hashgraph, understanding the ecosystem. And these are the ones that are going to be tasked, for example, to organize meetups, boot camps, or provide on-site trainings and workshops for local communities. The next level after that is, we call them the mentors. These are experienced individuals that have successfully completed the training, certification. They have successfully completed the development of certain use cases or actively running businesses that are built on Hedera. This is a network of great individuals that the Hashgraph Association can work with and appoint them either as board members or members of advisory boards and help with different use cases. And the last level is the ambassadors. These are basically highly respected individuals, key thought leaders that have served within the Hedera ecosystem for many years, either as council member representatives or as executives within the Hashgraph Association or the Hashgraph Group, or within the foundation or within Hashgraph in US. Basically, people that have tremendous experience when it comes to Hedera projects and initiatives. These are the ones that are basically representing Hedera Hashgraph and representing the Hashgraph Association in major events. But happy to kind of provide a dedicated session on the membership program and the roles and responsibilities, expectations, and the benefits that you might get out of that. And while leveraging SecuTix as an example, and also other association members, the likes of Bayer Group, for example, Merck, which is one of the leading pharmaceutical companies out of Europe, all the way up to bigger entities like FedEx and Apex Group and other entities that are actively engaging within Hedera ecosystem.
Awesome. Well, I want to ask Rafa the low-hanging fruit question. And I know that you mentioned it earlier, which is there's a big event coming this summer, which is exciting. So, but what are you excited about for the rest of 2026 from SecuTix's standpoint, or from going live and maybe with Hedera technology alongside the Hashgraph Association membership? Just maybe broad statement. What does 2026 look like for you and SecuTix?
I think 2026, when we look back 4 or 5 years from now, will be the turning point. I think that as a white label, SaaS provider, we depend a lot on what our clients, what their understanding of their needs that they have, the threats that are there. And we always tend to be ahead. We build all these things that are there for years and clients don't enable and they don't need, or they feel they don't need. But I mean, obviously in the last 2 years with the explosion of AI and we are now getting these same major clients that do a major tournament every 4 years or every year coming to us and say, we need this solution, and we go, great, because we have it right here. So I'm super excited. We're gonna bring this proof of authenticity feature with Hedera. We're gonna bring it live in one of our larger festival clients. So we're gonna have that success case. But then when our clients start coming to us, the next time they do their 4-year event, they say, hey, last time I know this was happening, do you have a solution for that? Well, it turns out we already do have it because we ran it already. So I'm super excited about this notion of like the lag between the technological reality of when something is possible, which is what we're doing now, and when the decision makers at the organizers of our major clients, when they start realizing they need it. And it's super cool to be able to say, we already have it. It's right here, right? So I think you're on mute, Salman.
You can't imagine. So we said Murphy's Law before we hit record today.
Yes.
I knew at some point I was going to mute myself.
Murphy always shows up. Murphy always shows up.
I think, I've seen this so many times where, and I think you paint the picture perfectly, where I think a lot of the integrations that we see are happening now because it just kind of makes sense and it's nice to have. But I think we're heading towards a future where it's going to be the expectation. It's not going to be the exception to the rule. It is kind of going to be the rule. Kind of once you do something once and you provide more value and it makes sense and you have that additional level of authenticity or trust or whatever, it's like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kamal, any closing? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rafa.
No, I was just gonna. You mentioned Murphy's Law. I mean, just yesterday we had one of the major on sales of one of our largest clients, right? And they, a huge event that has millions of tickets will sell, bits and pieces throughout different waves. So I think yesterday they were selling like 40,000 tickets, but there was like 1.2 million in the queue to try and get into this, right? And so you have a war room, right, with all of our experts, monitoring all of our systems and stuff. All sorts of things happen, right? But then it's super cool to see how a client who 2 years ago, when we were agreeing, hey, this is a system you're going to use, blah, 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 said, no, we don't need that. And we just go, okay, you don't need it. But in the trenches yesterday, we had to turn on some things to secure their sales so everything doesn't drop. You often hear that there's these, big artists concert sales where the ticket shop just froze and dropped and everything. This doesn't happen to our clients because we just we have all these things in our back pocket, and in the moment when Murphy shows up, right, you just turn them on. You turn them on, right? Yeah. So that's really what I'm super excited about, how the digital asset distributed ledger technology modules that we're building, and we're starting with proof of authenticity, and we hope, Kamal, that we can go to other use cases, right? They come online, they're available, and then as they're needed, we can implement them in larger and future clients.
Kamal, closing thoughts, sir?
I mean, Rafa mentioned like everything great. All I can say is the Hashgraph Association has been working on many great enterprise use cases that are now going live. This year is going to be an amazing year for Hedera community and Hedera ecosystem, with top Fortune enterprises and large corporates around the world coming and reporting back on their experience with the Hashgraph Association and presenting their use cases, not on paper, but live, going live on the system. And I think the team has over 70 use cases with 70 enterprises across the world that are now going into production or live deployment. And that's gonna boost the vibrancy and, let's say, the network utilization over the upcoming months and years. But also we're still working on onboarding new use cases and new projects. So I'm excited. Combined with the Hashgraph membership program, which is targeting to connect individuals with corporates, I think we will close the gap and bring that missing piece to establish that big picture for Hedera ecosystem. I'm excited. I'm bullish. I'm looking forward for more enterprise use cases to be presented to this platform.
Awesome.
And thank you for having us.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, from Genfinity's end, hope to get as many of those enterprise and institutional interviews as possible, and we will be deep diving into the membership program. I know Kamal mentioned earlier Hashcare. That's a really exciting interview. Think about as kind of like the help desk and resource center for enterprise, institutional, and the community, which is I'm excited to get that interview out. And for those that aren't, and this was throughout this, but membership.hashgraph.swiss to learn more, and definitely go and check out SecuTix. It's secutix.com. Excited to see proof of authenticity go live in its first iteration this year. Rafa, thank you so much for joining us today. Kamal, thank you for joining, and looking forward to seeing all the innovation in 2026.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Have a nice day. Thank you, Rafa.